I always thought the second Trump presidency was going to be a bit loosey goosey, shall we say? A bit crazy, you know. Some very, interesting individuals Trump wants to bring into the White House, which in themselves are going to sort of carry a lot of baggage and ultimately do a lot of, well, quite crazy, silly things. But I at least expected like all this chaos to be kicking off in January, when Trump gets inaugurated and seeing, all this stuff unfold. However, that has not been the case. Not only have we seen all of like Trump's picks literally torn apart, picked to pieces before they even get to like a congressional hearing, but we've recently seen MAGA go into a full-on, civil war against its supposed golden child, Elon Musk, over like H1B visas. And that in itself has its own, hilarity in itself. But with also the fact that Trump, well, it's not Trump, but Elon, well, had pretty much almost shut the government down a couple of weeks ago, there is now a deepening crisis going on here in America, which could mean Trump might not even get inaugurated on the 20th of January. Like, that's how bad the crisis is getting, that you could not maybe see Donald Trump get inaugurated on the 20th of January. This is how bad the crisis in MAGA has become, that it is creating such a chaos cauldron that it could paralyze the next Trump administration. And I think that might very well be the case, that it's just going to be so chaotic and paralyzed. Trump does nothing for the next 4 years because it's just seized by paralysis, by infighting, by argumenting. And we've seen this in the UK. We saw what happened at the beginning of this year with Rishi Sunak and his entire tenure as prime minister. Now we've got actually a government that does stuff, which is quite a refreshing change, to be honest. But before we do go getting into this MAGA crisis now that is currently engulfing the Republican Party, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page, the one off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, as always, there's the Pony Club down below as well. So let's crack on then into this. This is coming from the Daily Beast. The title of MAGA crisis could mean no Trump inauguration on the 20th of January. Let's find out, shall we? So, the MAGA-verse could be on the brink of exploding into an all-encompassing constitutional crisis, with Donald Trump's inauguration possibly now collateral damage. So, let's find more about this, because it just gets so more crazy. But as I said, remember, this paralysis could basically mean that Donald Trump just does nothing for the next 4 years, because they just end up in so much argument, so much infighting, that it just completely paralyzes his entire administration. So the incoming Congress, scheduled to start on January the 3rd, but of course, following a very bruising pre-Christmas battle to keep the government open, Republican lawmakers, including President-elect Donald Trump, have now turned on the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. Remember a couple of years ago where the Republicans went through almost a period where they could not elect a speaker because they could not agree on someone. So paralyzed, so fractured had their party now become, they could not agree on a speaker, and it looks like they're going to start that whole process again very, very quickly, possibly next year. So things could get very spicy very, very quickly. So, without a speaker, the House of Representatives could become paralyzed and unable now to even certify Trump's re-election victory, plunging the Capitol and the country into political chaos. And after that, no one knows what would happen. So, how could things play out? According to the US Constitution, each new session of Congress begins at June on the 3rd of January. In the House of Representatives, the very first order of business is for the representatives to elect to choose the new speaker and then swear in the newly elected representatives. For about 100 years, this step was just a formality, but experts have now worried for months. The Republicans are so divided, they may not choose a speaker in time to certify the presidential election results, which, by law, must happen on January the 6th, during, of course, a joint session of the House and Senate. Lawmakers, of course, don't need to finish the certification, of course, on the same day, but the process has to wrap up by noon on the 20th of January, where the Constitution says the outgoing president's term ends. The problem is the incoming House Speaker must receive an overall majority of all the votes cast, not just the majority of the leading party's votes. The incoming House will have 434 members, usually 435, but Matt Gaetz has dropped out, now following allegations of sexual misconduct, and he failed, of course, to be nominated by Attorney General, meaning that Johnson now needs 218 votes to hold on to his position. But the Republicans hold such a slim majority that 219 seats to the Democrats' 215, even just a few defections, would now cost Johnson speakership. And this is what we saw last time. We saw Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, that side of like the MAGA Republican Party do this. And they just went, no, we want rid of you. We're gonna get rid of you. And then they caused for like an entire week. There was no speaker. They could not find a speaker until they finally settled on Mike Johnson. And here's the thing: the Democrats happily played along with it. Like, it was the first time for a long while that the Democrats seemed to actually have a spine. And they were just watching the Republicans just go into chaos. And I'll tell you what, the Democrats have no reason whatsoever to aid the Republicans if it goes into all-out chaos. No reason whatsoever. So, hey, this could turn into very, very quickly. We could see very early next year this descending into absolute chaos. And I really hope it does, because this could be a massive, massive constitutional crisis in America. And whose fault is it? Well, it's the Republicans and, of course, Donald Trump. So we'll see what happens, but this could get very interesting very, very quickly, very early next year. So, Representative Thomas Malassi already has said he would not vote for Johnson, and several of the Republicans currently remain undecided. But settling on a new speaker could, of course, take weeks, and the January the 20th deadline is dangerously close. Political science professor of Steve Smith of Arizona State University told Roll Call that nobody has any idea what will happen if the House doesn't elect a speaker by them, because it has never happened. Well, it could be about to happen. He said the country could be going into a big grey area. Some constitutional scholars have even said that the joint session could proceed without a speaker. Others have told that the House clerk could actually potentially swear in the newly elected members of the House if both parties agree. Or Republicans could elect a temporary speaker whose term expires on a particular day. If those efforts do fail, there would be no one to certify Trump's election victory in time for the inauguration. And Republican lawmakers have rejected the idea of an acting speaker when Johnson was chosen back in October of 2023. But a raging Trump, whose inauguration would of course be at stake, might actually be enough to install one in time. Quite possibly. However, it is still not clear who that would be. After last week's government shutdown debate drove an Elon Musk-sized wedge between Trump and Johnson, the government funding is now set to expire on midnight of December the 19th. Congress was about to, of course, pass a bipartisan bill and a resolution to the bill to keep the government open through till March, which until the world's richest man began, of course, trashing the agreement on Twitter. Eventually, of course, Trump demanded that Johnson replace the bill with a slimmed-down version that also suspended the debt ceiling. And, of course, a move he wanted to pin on outgoing President Joe Biden. After that one went down in flames, with 38 Republicans, of course, joining Democrats to oppose it, a second bipartisan deal avoided a shutdown at the last minute. Johnson then told reporters he thought Trump was probably happy with the outcome, but the president-elect was livid his debt ceiling demands weren't met. Johnson has effed us, one Republican lawmaker told the Daily Beast. Not happy at all, are they? Not happy at all. And I wonder if this is going to be now something else we see. Republicans starting to actually stand up to Donald Trump. Because the only really out there Republican who has been out there consistently is Chris Christie. Now, yeah, Chris Christie might be in sort of the political wilderness, but he still has a very large voice, still has a very large following, and the Republican Party might be turning around thinking, maybe this is our anti-Trump guy. Maybe if we start to boost this guy up a bit, maybe he can get rid of the MAGA movement. I don't see anyone else really rising to that challenge except him. But who knows? Maybe it could be someone else. Maybe someone else just has, right, I've had enough, and just goes after Trump and the MAGA movement hard to start turfing them out of the Republican Party. And when that happens, that could be a massive Republican civil war, on the cards there. So, if, of course, the election isn't certified by January the 20th, the Constitution is clear. Biden's term will, of course, ended, taking him and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris out of the line of the presidential succession. The Speaker of the House would, in theory, be next. But since that position would also be empty too, it would then pass to the Senate President pro tempore, the majority party's most senior senator. And that would be Senior Chuck Grassley of Iowa. Speaking of whom, has anyone actually checked on Grassley lately? The lawmaker, of course, turned 91 in September. Wild. Honestly. Wild. If this could literally happen in the next couple of days. Like, when are we? So this coming Friday, America could be in a bit of chaos. Just to prepare you for what could happen there. Like I say, the stakes are big. No one knows what would happen. First time in ever American history that's happened, and a complete constitutional gray area. We will wait and see what happens. But oh boy, the fireworks on this one could be huge. Could be huge. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Click on the like and share button on the way out. And of course, we'll see you all next time.